I'm a night guard at a deserted plantation. The rules are horrifying. The first night, there's a stretch of land down in southern Louisiana where the air never feels quite right. Locals won't talk about it, not directly, but if you mention the old Belvoir plantation, they'll either spit or cross themselves. I didn't believe in curses. I didn't believe in ghosts. I needed a paycheck. So when the job came up to guard that place at night, I took it without hesitation. I regret it every second now. The job listing was simple. Night security needed. Belvoir Plantation, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Good pay. No questions. No contact name. No interview. Just a short phone call. A gravelly voice told me to show up, follow the rules, and never step into the house no matter what I heard. I laughed it off. Sounded like an old Southern ghost story. I'd worked graveyard shifts before, malls, warehouses, even an old hospital once. I thought I'd seen it all. Belvoir was different. When I arrived, the place looked like it had been abandoned for decades. The wrought iron gates were rusted open, weeping with vines. The main house, 3 stories of crumbling white columns and blackened windows, sat hunched under thick oaks draped with moss. The silence hit me like a wall. No crickets, no wind, not even the hum of insects. Just stillness. A dusty trailer sat off to the side, clearly meant for the night guard. Inside, there was a cot, a dusty desk, and a single laminated sheet of paper pinned to the wall. Rules for the Belvoir Night Guard. Rule number 1. Begin rounds at exactly 10:15 p.m. Rule number 2. Stay outside the house at all times. Rule number 3. If you hear knocking from the second floor window, ignore it. Rule number 4. If the bell rings at midnight, return to the trailer immediately and wait 10 minutes before resuming rounds. Rule number 5. Never respond if someone calls your name after 3 a.m. Rule number 6. Do not attempt to leave the grounds before dawn. I stared at the list. It read more like a prank than a job protocol. But the paycheck promised $800 a week, cash, and I needed it. Badly. So, at 10:15 p.m., I clicked on the flashlight, adjusted my jacket, and stepped out to begin my rounds. The gravel cracked under my boots as I made my way around the overgrown perimeter of the mansion. The flashlight beam wavered with every step. The surrounding woods loomed dense and dark, and with no moonlight to cut through the branches, I felt like I was walking through a tunnel made of bone and shadow. At first, it was quiet, almost peaceful. The house creaked now and then, but that was expected with an old structure. I checked my watch, 11:02 p.m. Then I heard it, a knock, 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 soft but deliberate, echoing from the second floor window. I stopped dead in my tracks. My flashlight flickered once, then steadied. Rule number 3. If you hear knocking from the second floor window, ignore it. I glanced up. Sure enough, the curtain on the upper left window twitched. There was no wind. I kept walking. My breath was a little unsteady now, but I convinced myself it was just a trick of the woods settling. Maybe animals. The place was falling apart. It made sense, right? Midnight crept in with a low, unnatural chill. I could feel it coil around my ankles. Then I heard it. Ding. A lone bell, clear as crystal, rang out from somewhere near the front porch. It wasn't loud, just sharp. Once, then silence. I froze. Rule number 4. If the bell rings at midnight, return to the trailer immediately and wait 10 minutes before resuming rounds. Heart racing, I turned and beelined back to the trailer. Inside, I slammed the door shut and checked my watch. 12:01 a.m. 10 minutes. Just 10. I sat on the edge of the cot, trying not to let the creeping dread settle too deep. My hands were trembling. This wasn't normal. The bell hadn't been a dream. I heard it, clear as day. At exactly 12:11 a.m., I stepped back outside. The air felt different now, like it had teeth. I scanned the trees, nothing. But I noticed something strange near the far corner of the house. Footprints, fresh ones. They led from the back porch, across the gravel, and disappeared into the tree line. I followed them halfway, then stopped. The tracks weren't from boots or sneakers. They were bare, human, and judging by the depth and stride, whoever made them was running fast. I felt like something was watching me, just beyond the trees. I backed away slowly and continued around, never letting my flashlight dip too low. 1:30 a.m. I was rounding the east side of the house when I heard it again. Eli, my name, whispered, soft and low, from the shadows near the garden path. Eli, come here. Rule number 5. Never respond if someone calls your name after 3 a.m. But it was only 1:30. So why was it calling already? I backed up. My legs felt heavy, like they were filled with sand. The voice came again, closer. Eli, I see you. I turned and sprinted back to the trailer. I didn't stop until I slammed the door shut and locked it. My chest heaved. Sweat beaded down my back. The flashlight flickered again, then died. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I stepped outside. The plantation looked different in the morning light, almost innocent. The shadows had vanished. The woods stood still. But I didn't imagine those footprints, or the voice. Later that day, I received a text. No name, just, good work. Same time tonight. Don't break the rules. I should have walked away then. I should have quit, but I didn't, because deep down, I needed to know what happens when the rules are broken. And on the second night, I found out what lurks in the orchard. The second night felt colder, and not just in temperature. The kind of cold that seeped into your bones, whispering that something wasn't right, like the land itself had started noticing me. I showed up at 9:45 p.m., same as the night before. The sun had just slipped behind the horizon, turning the sky a blood orange hue. I parked outside the gates this time, hesitant to pull inside. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice calling my name, closer, wetter. But I came back. God help me, I came back. The trailer was untouched. Same smell of mildew and old paper. Same cot. Same list of rules on the wall. I reread them twice, letting my eyes linger on each one as if they were scripture. I couldn't explain what was happening, but I believe them now. Every last one. At 10:15 p.m. sharp, I stepped outside and started my round. The first half hour was uneventful. The woods were still. The house loomed silently behind me like an old, rotting god. I stayed on a gravel path. Didn't dare shine the light into the windows. But something was different tonight. As I rounded the back end of the plantation, I noticed a narrow dirt path I hadn't seen before. It jutted off the main trail, cutting between two collapsed sheds and into the dark. Curiosity got the better of me. The path led to an old orchard. Apple trees, or what was left of them. Twisted trunks, broken branches, and shriveled fruit clinging like tumors to the bark. The air smelled metallic. I stepped deeper in, light sweeping across the rows. And that's when I saw her. A girl, standing between two trees. Pale dress, long black hair, bare feet. Her back was to me. My chest seized. She didn't move, didn't flinch. I raised my flashlight slowly. Hey, are you all right? I called out, voice cracking. She didn't respond. I stepped closer, 10 feet away now. My light trembled across her form. Her arms were wrong, too long, hanging limp like they'd been unstitched from her shoulders. And her hair, it wasn't hair at all. It was moss, wet, thick moss like what hung from the oaks near the house, braided and clumped down her back. I blinked, and she was gone, just gone. No sound, no movement, just empty space. I turned on my heel and ran. Back on the trail, I checked my watch. 11:59 p.m. My heart dropped. I bolted for the trailer. Ding. The bell rang again. Right on cue. I dove into the trailer, slammed the door, and counted down every second. 10 minutes never felt so long. At 12:11 a.m., I stepped back out, knees still shaking. The air had changed again. The orchard path was gone. Not overgrown. Gone. As if it had never existed. That's when I noticed a new addition on the back of the house. A flickering lantern swinging on a hook near the second-story balcony. It hadn't been there the night before. I could feel someone watching me from up there. My flashlight refused to hold its beam in that direction, always dimming when I aimed toward the house. But I could feel it. Something was waiting. At 2:47 a.m., I took a break near the empty well on the east side. I leaned against the stone, trying to breathe. The night had grown thicker. The woods pulsed with invisible tension, like they were holding their breath. That's when I heard the humming. Soft. Female. A lullaby maybe. Faint, but clear. It was coming from inside the well. I leaned in slowly, heart thudding. The stone was freezing beneath my hands. The song stopped. Then, Eli, I yanked back. The voice was right beneath me. I shone a flashlight down. Nothing. Just black. Then something moved, swift and slick, like something retreating just out of sight. I stumbled back, falling onto the dirt. Behind me, something creaked. The second-floor balcony. The lantern was gone, replaced with a woman. She stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, head cocked at an unnatural angle. I couldn't see her face, but her silhouette burned itself into my mind. She began to raise her arm slowly, as though pointing. My radio crackled. Static. Then words. Don't look at her face. I froze. The voice on the radio wasn't mine. I hadn't touched the mic. The radio buzzed again, then went silent. When I looked back up at the balcony, she was gone. By the time 3 a.m. rolled around, I was a wreck. My nerves frayed. My flashlight was flickering uncontrollably. I was debating hiding in the trailer for the rest of the shift when I heard it again. Eli, but this time was different. Not whispered, shouted, angrily. Eli, get back here. We're not done yet. I turned, and to my horror, saw someone sprinting toward me. A man, wearing my uniform, my boots, me. He was a mirror of myself, but not right. His face was wild, twitching, eyes bloodshot. His hands were soaked in something dark, dripping from his fingertips. I backed away. He charged, screaming, "Don't break the rules." I ducked behind the nearest oak and made a break for the trailer. He didn't follow. When I got back, I locked the door, pulled the curtains tight, and sat in the dark until sunrise. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My reflection, whatever it was, had vanished. At dawn, the plantation lightened, and the normal sounds of life returned. Birds chirped, the morning dew glistened, and then my phone buzzed. Same number, no name, just. Third night's the real test. Don't mess up. That's when I noticed something tucked under the door. A new page. Addendum to rules, Belvoir Night Guard. Rule number 7. Do not approach the well after the second night. Rule number 8. If you see yourself, run. Don't let it speak. Rule number 9. She watches from the balcony now. Rule number 10. The orchard returns when it's ready. Stay out of it. I sat on the cot for hours, staring at the paper. What the hell had I walked into? 2 nights in, and the rules weren't just guidelines. They were the only thing keeping me alive. Belvoir wasn't just haunted. It was aware, growing. I should have walked. I should have driven until I hit the ocean. But part of me wanted answers. Needed them. And the third night, that's when the plantation came alive. The house is awake now. I didn't go home after the second night. I sat in my car outside the plantation gates for hours, watching the sun inch across the sky like it was scared to cross over Belvoir. The air was different here, even in daylight. Too still. No breeze. No bugs. Like nature had abandoned this place a long time ago. I could have left, thrown my badge in the back seat, and driven until gas and memory failed me. But something had sunk its hooks into me. Something old. Something personal. I opened the glove box and pulled out the new list again. The addendum, 7 through 10. They weren't just warnings. They were predictions. And that meant someone new. Someone else had walked this path before me. And if they survived long enough to leave instructions, maybe I could too. Night 3, 9:45 p.m. sharp. I walked back through the iron gates. The entire plantation felt wrong. The ground was damp, but there hadn't been rain. The air tasted metallic like old blood, and the gravel under my boots didn't crunch like it used to. It squelched. I tried not to look down too long. The trailer was the same as always. Cot, lantern, radio. I kept the paper list folded in my pocket now, like a talisman. I didn't trust my memory anymore. Whatever was here could twist things, warp your senses. At 10 p.m., I stepped out with my flashlight and froze. The house lights were on, dim and flickering behind cracked shutters, but definitely on, and the front door was open. I took a single step forward before remembering. Rule number 4, never enter the house. Ever. I turned away, pulse pounding, and that's when I noticed something else. There were footprints in the dirt, barefoot, small, leading from the house straight to the orchard path, which was back. I clutched my flashlight tighter and tried to stick to routine. Stay on a gravel path. No detours. Keep moving. Follow the rules. But at 10:26 p.m., the radio crackled again. To static then. Don't ignore her tonight. The voice was female, tired, full of regret. I stared at the speaker. Ignore who? No reply. Only static. 11:11 p.m. The orchard hummed. I hadn't stepped into it, but I could feel it like it was breathing. The trees were thicker now, twisted inward like skeletal arms. There was a soft rustling from within, but no wind. Just motion. I turned and walked the other way, toward the barn. I hadn't checked the barn yet. It sat far from the main house, slouched and shadowed, half swallowed by the trees. The door hung loose on one hinge. I aimed my light and stepped closer. The air grew colder with each step. My breath came out in puffs. And then I heard them. Voices. Low. Chanting. Coming from inside. My blood ran cold. I should have left. I knew I should have left. But some part of me needed to see. I peered in. The barn was empty. Just old hay, rusted tools, broken boards. Dust dancing in the flashlight beam. The voices were gone. I stepped inside. A single word scratched into the far wall caught my eye. Down, right beneath it, a hatch door. 11:59 p.m. Ding. The bell at the trailer rang again. I bolted back, heart pounding. 10 more minutes. Just 10. The bell always rang at midnight. Same tone, same rhythm. But this time, something changed. Because this time, something answered. A deeper chime, from under the ground. Like another bell, much older, was tolling in response. I stared out the trailer window, cold sweat crawling down my spine. A shadow moved across the yard. Tall, thin, gliding instead of walking. It passed beneath the balcony where the woman had stood the night before and paused. It looked at me. I don't know how. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was looking. Through the glass. Through me. Then it vanished. 12:11 a.m. I opened the trailer door slowly. The air smelled like sulfur and wilted roses. The lights in the house flickered again. And this time, I heard something else. Footsteps upstairs. Even though I was outside, I walked the path like I was supposed to. Gravel only. Keep to the rules. But every time I rounded the back of the house, the shadows shifted. The balcony had changed again. Now there was a child's rocking horse sitting on it, gently swaying. No wind, no child, just movement. I didn't stop walking, didn't even blink. At 2:12 a.m., I circled back toward the barn. I couldn't shake the word I saw inside down. I had to know. I opened the hatch. A narrow stairwell spiraled into darkness. The air rising from it was wet and warm, like breath from a sleeping giant. I went down, one step at a time. My flashlight dimmed with every descent. Then it clicked off entirely. Pitch black. I reached the bottom by feel. Stone walls, dirt floor, and then music. Old jazz, playing faintly through static. A gramophone? Down here. I turned the corner and saw them. Chairs, dozens of them, all facing a large screen made of stretched linen. Like an old-timey theater hidden beneath the plantation. Figures sat in the chairs. Still, motionless, not breathing, wearing 1940s clothes, tattered and rotting. Some had no heads, others no eyes. They all stared at the screen, and on it, footage of me, walking through Belvoir, flashlight in hand, talking to myself, sleeping in the trailer, staring at the orchard. Every move I'd made for the last 3 nights, all recorded, a projector whirred softly above. I staggered back, ball rising in my throat. One of the headless figures twitched. I bolted up the stairs, not daring to look back. 3:03 a.m. I collapsed behind the trailer, gasping for breath. I had broken a rule. I had gone down, but no rule had warned against the barn. No rule had mentioned the cinema of the dead. I checked the original list. Still 10 rules. But when I unfolded the paper again, something had changed. The ink had bled slightly, revealing faint text underneath. It had always been there, just hidden. A final note scribbled in barely visible pencil. There's a 13th rule. You don't want to find it. I stared at it for a long time. 13. An unlucky number for a cursed place. I folded the list and stuffed it in my chest pocket. The night ended in silence. Even the radio was quiet. At dawn, I stood by the iron gates, staring down the road. My reflection in the car window looked older, paler. Something inside me was shifting. That place was changing me, or maybe showing me what was already there. I drove home without blinking once. My phone buzzed at 9:12 a.m. Same number, no name. 4th night breaks the mind. Bring salt, bring fire. I had survived the 3rd night, but barely. Now I knew the plantation was more than haunted. It was a machine, a trap, a loop fed by ritual, memory, and fear. And I was no longer sure if I'd started the job 3 days ago or years ago. The rules weren't protection anymore. They were instructions for how to transform. Salt, fire, and memory. By the 4th night, I'd stopped lying to myself. Belvoir wasn't haunted. It was alive. The plantation pulsed with something primal, older than the wood in its beams or the bones in its basement. It watched, whispered, remembered, and now it had my scent. I didn't go to the station that day. Didn't check in. I drove straight to an old general store 15 miles out of town. Bought 3 canisters of salt, 2 Zippo lighters, and enough kerosene to soak a cathedral. The old man at the register stared at me as I piled everything on the counter. "You camping or exorcising?" he asked with a dry chuckle. I didn't answer. I paid in cash and left without another word. The drive back to Belvoir was quiet. Too quiet. Even with the windows up, I realized I couldn't hear the hum of the engine. The tires didn't crunch the gravel. No birds flew overhead. It was like the world held its breath every time I approached the gates. And tonight, the sky was blood orange. No sunset, no clouds, just an endless smear of red stretching behind the house like a wound in the heavens. 9:41 p.m. I parked just outside the gates. Waited. stared at my hands, gripping the steering wheel. They didn't feel like mine anymore. The skin looked waxy, too tight on the bones. And there was a faint buzzing behind my eyes, like an insect crawling around in my skull. I told myself it was just sleep deprivation, but I knew better. 10 p.m. I stepped onto the property, saw in one hand, lighter in the other. I sprinkled a line behind me, across the iron gate's threshold. My first and only defense if something decided to follow. The house loomed ahead, its windows glowing again, flickering, pulsing in time with something deep beneath the floorboards. The front door remained ajar, always inviting, always hungry. I didn't look inside. Instead, I turned toward the orchard. Tonight, I would finally go in. The orchard path was different now. No gravel, no dirt, just carpet, the same threadbare, red and gold pattern from the Plantation's parlor. It stretched endlessly between the trees like a grotesque runner at a wedding. The air grew colder as I stepped forward. The trees creaked like gallows, their branches twisted, arching over me, forming a tunnel of clawed wood. And then I saw her, the woman, same as before, white dress, long black hair veiling her face. But this time, she wasn't standing still. She was walking toward me, slow, unnatural, like a puppet dragged by invisible strings. I dropped the salt, fumbling with the cap. She got closer, 20 feet, 15. I opened the canister and poured a thick circle around myself. 10 feet. Her hands trembled. 5. Then she stopped, just outside the ring. She tilted her head slowly, and I heard a sound, not from her lips, but from inside my skull. "You brought the fire." My throat dried instantly. I nodded, unsure if she could see. "You'll need it soon. They remember you now." "Boo," I croaked, but she was already fading. Her figure dissolved into mist, sucked into the soil like blood into cloth. The carpet unraveled beneath my feet, and the trees shifted. Now, I stood before a small stone well, covered in vines. No bucket, just darkness. I felt it calling me, not with sound, but with memory. A flood of images hit me, not my own. Children running through cotton fields, a woman sobbing at dusk, a man in a Confederate uniform hanging from a willow, and fire. So much fire. I staggered back, the world spinning. I wasn't supposed to see this. I turned and ran, crashing through brambles and branches until I was free from the orchard. The carpet was gone. So was the well. I had lost 23 minutes. My watch now read 10:48 p.m. I stumbled back toward the barn. Something had changed there, too. Smoke curled from its shattered roof. And inside, music again. Not jazz this time. A lullaby. Soft, off-key, played on a music box. I approached slowly, lighter clenched tight in my fist. The hatch door was still open, and inside, a single candle burned at the bottom of the stairs. Someone was waiting. I descended again, this time without hesitation, and found her, the woman from the orchard, sitting in one of the rotted theater chairs. Her dress was wet with soil. Her hair clung to her face. She stared at the screen, which was now blank, as though watching something only she could see. I stepped closer. "Who are you?" She didn't look at me, but her voice whispered through the chamber. They took my name when they took my face. I noticed then she had no eyes, just empty sockets stitched shut with red thread. They made us watch, over and over, until we became the film. My stomach turned. I stepped back, ready to flee. But the screen flickered on again. This time, it showed something new. A fire, raging in the orchard. Screams echoed. Figures ran. Shadows leapt. I watched as one man, tall, gaunt, dressed like a butler, drag a child toward the house. The woman followed, screaming, and in the flames a face. Mine, staring out from the inferno. I gasped. No, no, that's not me. I wasn't here. The woman turned toward me. But you'll be. The candle extinguished itself. Darkness. I ran. 11:37 p.m. Back at the trailer. I bolted the door and poured salt across the windowsills, under the door across the floor. I sat in the corner, clutching the Zippo, hands trembling. The radio crackled. They're almost done remembering you. It wasn't her voice this time. It was mine, slightly warped, like someone had recorded me from outside my body. Then came laughter. Low, male, familiar. The butler. He was back. I ran to the window. Sure enough, he stood in the moonlight, just beyond the salt line, face waxen, eyes like two pits of coal. He raised one gloved hand and pointed at the house. 12 a.m. The bell rang. Once, twice, but not from the trailer this time. It came from the roof of the plantation. I stepped out cautiously. The butler was gone, but on the balcony, a new shape. A little boy, pale, crying, and behind him shadows. Many of them, watching, waiting. The rules were crumbling. The path was gone. The orchard had swallowed the rear fields, and the house was now completely illuminated. Every window, every hallway, the structure throbbed like a beating heart, and the air was filled with whispers. Thousands of them. You've done this before. You never left. Time to remember. I backed away, but the ground beneath me buckled. The earth split behind the trailer, revealing black roots pulsing with light. I dropped the salt. It was useless now. They didn't want to keep me out anymore. They were inviting me in. 2 a.m. Smoke curled from the chimney. Music poured from the windows. The front door slammed shut with a bang that echoed for miles, and the iron gate behind me disappeared, replaced by trees. Every exit was gone. There was only one way left to go. In. The fourth night had destroyed the illusion of rules. There were no boundaries anymore. No safe zones. The plantation had peeled back its mask, and I finally saw it for what it was. A parasite of memory. A loop of suffering, feeding on those who dare to watch. I wasn't guarding it. I was becoming it. And there was still one night left. The final hour at Belvoir. I never believed in hell before Belvoir. But now I know. Hell isn't fire. It's not demons or chains. It's memory. Replayed. Twisted. Stretched across time like sinew from bone. And tonight, the fifth and final night, I'm not just reliving someone else's past. I'm living it. Because Belvoir doesn't just remember the dead. It remembers you, even before you ever arrive. 11:58 p.m. I stood at the foot of the plantation, watching as its lights pulsed like veins under skin. The house wasn't just lit, it glowed. Every board radiated a sickly amber hue, like it was sweating from the inside. A voice whispered behind me, "You're already inside." I turned. No one was there, but my shadow was wrong. It wasn't mimicking me. It raised its hand before I did, turned its head when mine was still, and slowly it smiled. That's when I realized I'd been here before. Not just this week, not just in dreams. Decades ago, or centuries, or forever. I didn't work for Belvoir. I belonged to it. 12 a.m. The final bell rang, and Belvoir breathed in. The wind reversed direction, pulling inward, drawing leaves, dust, birds, even clouds toward the house like it was inhaling the world. I took a step forward and immediately found myself inside the grand foyer. I never opened the door. It simply accepted me. The chandelier overhead spun lazily, each crystal dripping black wax. Portraits on the walls bled from the eyes. A music box played somewhere upstairs, that same broken lullaby I'd heard beneath the barn. I walked down the hall. My boots left no sound, no echo. It was like the house swallowed everything. In the dining room, the table was set. Silver cutlery, rotting food, crystal goblets filled with something thick and red. Each chair was occupied. Dead men and women, dressed in faded gowns and torn tuxedos. Skin like parchment, eyes wide, lips stitched shut. And at the head of the table, the butler. He lifted a wine glass in my direction, then raised one finger. First rule, never eat from the table. He dropped the finger, then smiled. I ran, through the parlor, past the weeping mirrors, down a hallway where the walls beat like a pulse. Every door led somewhere different. The second-floor nursery now opened into the orchard, full-grown and glowing under a sky that was indoors. The butler's study became a barn, flickering with phantom flames that never burned. And the basement? The basement was no longer below. It was above. I climbed the grand staircase and opened the attic door. Inside, the theater, just like the one buried under the barn. Same chairs, same screen, and seated in the front row was me, hands tied, mouth sewn shut, eyes forced open. I watched myself scream, the sound muffled behind threads. The screen flashed. A new reel played, me arriving on night 1, then night 2, night 3, each time slightly more rotted. My skin grayer, my eyes dimmer. By night 4, I was a shadow. By night 5, I was the butler. I tried to run, but the floor disappeared beneath me. I fell through rooms, through time. I saw Belvoir as it was. 1806, laughter, dresses, champagne, then whips, screams, shackles in the sugar cellar. 1865, fire, ash, a family locked inside their own ballroom, burning alive. 1912, seances, blood sacrifices, a preacher chanting with his own tongue nailed to the altar. 1938, the screen flickers. A woman enters the barn, never leaves. 1955, 1972, 1994, 2011. Guards, guests, caretakers, all lured in, all consumed. I landed with a crack in a garden, now overrun with hands sprouting from the earth like weeds. They grabbed at me, pulling me toward the soil. I screamed, fought, but one hand brushed my cheek, and suddenly, I remembered. I wasn't a random guard. I was Benjamin Adley, hired in 1996 to monitor the Belvoir estate for a preservation society that never existed. 5 nights in, I vanished, declared legally dead. But the truth, I never left. I was pulled into the house, buried, recycled, forgotten, until Belvoir needed me again. Rewound the tape, reset the story, brought me back in a different face under a new name. 1:15 a.m., the garden melted around me, and I stood once again in the orchard. This time, the trees were all burning. The woman stood among them, her face now clear. It was Clara Belvoir, the mistress of the house, the one who opened the door to occult rites, the one who made the first deal. She reached out, palm up. "End it," she said. In her hand, the Zippo lighter. She stepped back, revealing a circle of bones, candles, and ash. In the center, a mirror, covered in skin. My reflection stared back. But it wasn't me. It was all of me. Every version, every cycle, every forgotten guard, all whispering, "Burn us, or become us." I struck the lighter, hesitated. Could I do it? Was I ready to die to break the loop? Or would the fire just feed the house more? Clara's voice broke through my spiral. "It only feeds if you fear it." I looked again. The mirror was cracking, the figures inside trembling. I stepped into the circle, tossed the flame. The skin ignited instantly. Screams erupted. From the orchard, the barn, the house, the walls, even the sky. Everything burned. The past, the present. Belvoir howled. 2:59 a.m. I awoke outside the gates. Alone. The house was gone. No smoke, no ruin, just an empty field where Belvoir once stood. My car sat beside me, the keys on the seat, my name badge cracked in half. I touched my face. It was mine, and I was me. I drove for hours. Didn't stop until sunrise. Didn't speak for weeks. But eventually, I wrote everything down and buried the rules where no one would find them. Or so I thought. I received a letter yesterday. No return address. Just a note inside. We've reopened Belvoir. Needs overnight security. Interested. And beneath that, a Zippo lighter. Still warm. The end.